Hey everyone, I want you to remember that when life tests you, remember that God's faithfulness is always going to make a way out, even if you don't see it. So this week's verse of the week is 1 Corinthians chapter 10:13, and it reads, "No temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind, and God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted, He will also provide a way out so you can endure it." It's a promise that many of us quote, but we secretly doubt. Why? Because when life hits us hard, it can feel like there's no way out and we're stuck in something that we just can't handle. I'll be completely transparent with you. I really wanted to do this verse of the week because I wanted to serve as a reminder to myself as well that God does not call us to bear anything more than what we can bear. And sometimes it feels like you're getting right up to that line, or it feels like, well, maybe I'm an exception to the rule because I just don't see how I can continue to endure the circumstances that I'm enduring. So this is a reminder to myself as well. Feel free to check out the description or check out one of the videos here or here for more of the extremely frustrating circumstances that I've been facing lately myself. But this particular verse of the week is a reminder for myself as well as for you. All right. So a couple reasons why we struggle to believe this verse is because we confuse temptation with trouble. Okay. So sometimes when we misread this verse, we oftentimes think that God is not going to allow any hardship to touch us. But this verse is about temptation and testing. Life's hardships are going to come and go, but temptation is about how we respond. There's a lot of the temptation to give up, the temptation to sin, the temptation to doubt God's goodness. Again, too many of us confuse temptation with God not allowing trouble into our lives. Okay. He already told us that we're going to have trouble in this world, but if we focus on Him, we can have the peace that surpasses all understanding. So again, we need to make sure that we remind ourselves, me included, that temptation is totally different. It is how we respond to those particular circumstances that we're faced with. Okay. Number 2, we don't always recognize the way out. Okay. I am guilty of this. God always makes a way out, but we may be not looking in that direction. The way out that we are expecting doesn't often coincide with the way out that God is providing. And so the way out that we might not be expecting is wisdom, patience, setting boundaries, or simply just enduring the trial that God put us through. It's not the immediate escape hatch that we always want, right? I don't know about you, but whenever I'm experiencing difficulties, get me out of here the fastest way possible. But that's not always the route that God wants to go. Sometimes He wants us to go through that fire. He wants us to walk through that lion's den. And so we need to be open to the fact that the way out that we are seeking may not always coincide with the way out that God provides. So we need to open our horizon and be on the lookout for all of the different ways that God may provide for us to get the way out. Number 3, we're isolated. Many of us don't reach out for help because we oftentimes think that we have to endure these circumstances alone. But oftentimes, God sends people, resources, and wisdom as a part of our way out. But we're so prideful that our shame keeps us silent that we miss the help that God provides. We're not to live our lives as an island. Okay. We're all connected in some way, shape, or form. And many times, the way that I'm in a position to complete the puzzle that God has me working on at that point in time, someone may be the missing piece to that puzzle. But if I allow my pride to get in the way because I'm too ashamed, I'm too embarrassed, if I allow that to get in the way, I'm missing out on God's opportunity to show me the way out. Okay, so we need to make sure that we don't live our lives in such a way that we're isolated from God providing us with the answer to our prayers, right? Number 4, we don't trust God's timing. Sometimes the way out is much slower than we anticipated, right? We live in such an instant gratification type of world. And so when we want out of a difficult circumstance, we want out right then and there. And oftentimes God's idea of the way out is a lot slower than what our idea is. Okay. And God oftentimes chooses the slower way out for us because he's building our endurance, our character, and hope in us through waiting. And then last but not least, many times we feel unworthy, right? Deep down, some of us, we just feel like we're the exception to the rule. Like God can never care enough about me. So, to be faithful, to honor his promises. But this verse literally tells us that he is faithful. And so regardless of how we may feel or the failures that we've had to encounter, trust and believe that God is still faithful and he's rooting for you to make it out of that situation. And so we just addressed all the reasons why we struggle to believe 1 Corinthians chapter 10:13. So knowing what we know now, how are we going to apply this verse to our life? And so there's a couple ways we can go about doing that. First off, asking God to open your eyes to the way out. So we could say a quick prayer. God, show me what I'm not seeing. Help me recognize the doors you're opening, the wisdom you're giving, and the people you're sending to help me endure. Another thing that we can do is to stay connected to others. And I struggle with this one because when I'm facing a difficult circumstance, I prefer to just go off by myself, because I don't want to be snapping on someone when it's not even that person. I prefer to just be by myself, collect my thoughts, try to figure out a way out of that situation. Now, with that said, you have to have discernment, right? Because there are instances where you need to do what I just stated, but you have to have a balance because sometimes God may send specific people that you didn't necessarily thought would have the correct answer to your situation, and they do. But if you isolate yourself in your temptation or your struggles, you're going to miss out on that answer. Okay. So I want you to have discernment with this, but if need be, reach out to your community, your church family, a trusted friend. Sometimes the way out is accountability. The next thing I want you to do is to take practical steps. Okay. So if you know that certain people, places, or activities keep you stuck, keep you feeling stagnant in your life, remove yourself from them. Okay. God gives us the strength to flee temptation, but we have to be willing to move our feet. Okay. Too many of us are complaining and asking God to take away certain things from us without putting in the effort to remove those things on our own first. Okay. Then I want you to remind yourself of God's track record. So I keep a gratitude journal. And if you're not into journaling, I highly suggest that you get into that. Or, if you're not sure where to start, go ahead on the Hustle and Faith website and download that brand new You guide, because that can help you get into the process of getting into kind of gratitude journaling. So go ahead and check that out. But I want you to write down all the past situations that God brought you through that you didn't think was possible. And that way, whenever doubt creeps into your mind, you have the ability to go back and revisit all the ways that God brought you through in the past. So you're not an exception to his rule. And he did it before. Why wouldn't he do it again? Another thing I want you to think about is allowing that particular circumstance that you're going through to deepen your trust in God. So instead of asking, why is this happening? Why me? Why now? Try being more intentional with your questions. Instead, ask God, what are you trying to teach me? What are the lessons that I need to learn? And by me learning these lessons, who else am I going to be in a position to help out? Because it's kind of funny. Once you shift your mindset into not focusing on everything being about you and focus on the lessons that God's trying to teach you, you realize that your experiences that you're encountering are not going to be in vain, and that other people are going to be blessed by whatever circumstances that you've been able to overcome. And I know it doesn't feel like that right now, but speaking from personal experience, especially with the situation that I'm going through right now, again, check out the video for more detail on that. I have been in a position to firsthand see how many people have been suffering in silence because they're not as well versed in the law. They thought that they were the only ones going through the situation that my mom and I are going through. And that's just not true. My mom and I just are trying to do our best to expose the corruption that's out there. And so more people will be in a position to benefit from that, right? By other folks feeling more confident to share their story. And the only way I got there is because I finally stopped throwing a pity party for myself and realized, you know what? I don't want the stuff that I'm going through to be in vain. And I'm realizing step by step, God had me going through this for a reason. Did I want to go through this? Absolutely not. But I can definitely see the lessons that he wanted to teach me. And I can also see how the experience and circumstances that we're going through have blessed other people with our knowledge as well. And so last but not least, I want you to focus on encouraging someone else. Sometimes the best way to remind yourself of a promise is to remind someone else of it. Okay, so be that testimony to the friend that's feeling overwhelmed. Remember, God never promised us that we wouldn't face trials or temptations. What he promised us is that we would never face them alone or without hope. 1 Corinthians chapter 10:13 is proof that our situation that we're encountering is not unique. It is not impossible. And most importantly, God is not indifferent. Remember, there is a way through, and we're going to be so much stronger on the other side. In the comment section, I want you to share with me, what areas of your life are you trusting that God is making a way out of for you? Let's remind each other that God is faithful and that we are never alone. Remember, if you're everything to everyone, then you risk being no one. You never know who you will inspire. See you in the next video.